Hello guys, this is your friend Shinobi Addict 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was raised by Kakashi and found love with Kurenai? Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto focused the flows of chakra into his feet as he stood on the flowing river and his hands were in the position of the tiger seal, concentrating, eyes closed. The 12-year-old stood still, beads of sweat flowing down his face as he tried his hardest to maintain his chakra flow and balance. It was his brother's, Kakashi's, method to maintain power and balance on water. His eyes suddenly flickered open. Naruto continued to do a couple of hand seals and completed the technique. Suiden no Jutsu, Naruto said as he summoned a water-made dragon. The gigantic serpent-like creature leapt out of the water and roared as it thrashed and lashed everywhere, sprang some of the water it was made of upon Naruto. The dragon suddenly dissipated, splashing the water in the air upon the rivers. So I see you've been progressing very nicely, Naruto, a man said. It was Kakashi, his eyes on the latest volume of Make Out Paradise, in his hands. But still not as good as you, Kakashi-nichan. Naruto said, grimacing. It's still okay for your level. Kakashi said, smiling at his adopted brother, you're not even a genin yet, Naruto, and you've already mastered all the techniques that I've taught you. You have a little trouble with your chakra control due to the fox inside of you, but other than that, I think that you can easily be at the level of Chunin. Naruto grinned at his older brother and untied his waist-long blonde hair. Kakashi had let Naruto's hair grow ever since he adopted him as a brother at the age of 1. He had thought of it as a magnet for women of all ages. So are going to have lunch with Kurenai-chan again today, Kakashi-nichan. Kakashi grinned under his black mask. He knew that his brother had a crush on his workmate since they met at the Junin exams a year ago. After you get back from the academy, Naruto. Wait a minute. Naruto's eyes widened and looked at the clock on a green building. I'm late, Naruto exclaimed, grabbing his black jacket and putting it on. He's just like me. Well, maybe not the panicking part. Oh man, Iruka-sensei's going to burn me and then eat me and then kill me. Naruto could be seen as a lightning blue blur going right through the woods and past men, women and children toward the ninja academy. He stopped instantly as outside the academy doors, praying that his favorite teacher wouldn't kill him. Henge no Jutsu, Naruto said softly, transforming himself into a grown-up Chunin and walking into the academy and towards his classroom, where Iruka was teaching. He knocked on the door 3 times, and Iruka came out with a book in hand. Yes, what can I do for you, sir? Iruka asked, oblivious that this was Naruto. Sorry for bothering you, Iruka-sensei, but there is a man waiting for you outside your office. He wants to talk to you about the genin exams. Naruto said. All right, I'll be there in a moment. Could you please watch my class for me? Naruto gave a nod as he entered the classroom and Iruka left. As soon as Iruka was outside the door and down the hallway, Naruto grinned. His classmates looked confused at the sight of a new Chunin coming in. And that, class, is how you trick your instructor. Naruto said to his friends. Naruto changed back into his usual blue-clad self, earning disbelieving gasps and wide-eyed stares from most of his classmates. Naruto walked to his seat. He sat in between Shikamaru and Kiba and his dog, Akamaru, who both turned to him, trying to find out how he had just done that. Naruto's grin grew wider. What a way to escape Iruka-sensei's wrath, Naruto. Kiba said to his friend. Kiba was one of Naruto's closest friends, aside from Choji, Shino and Shikamaru, who was his best friend in the academy. The 5 of them, and Akamaru, had been friends since they were 6 years old, and showed no sign of letting it wane. You got that Uchiha all riled up at the back there, Naruto. Shikamaru stated. Naruto turned around and saw the raven-haired boy sending a look his way. Sasuke was Naruto's rival since the both of them were the best in the class. Well, Naruto was better by a long shot, but by academy standards, they both were as good, knowing techniques that were supposed to be known and mastering them. Excluding Naruto's secret knowledge in Doden and Sweden, Sasuke was quite good. Iruka came in, his face one of someone who had just been tricked. He had been. I am going to get that guy, whoever he is. Iruka said under his breath. Naruto smiled at his friends, and Iruka began to ponder if Naruto had been responsible for the trick. But Naruto wasn't known to ask for help with his jokes. Iruka just shrugged it off and went on to teach with his class more boring things. Naruto sat down with Kakashi at Ichiraku Ramen, waiting for Kurenai. So what did Iruka-san say about you being late, Naruto? Kakashi asked. I avoided his scolding. Pulled a henge on him. Naruto said, grinning. Ah, what a nice method of avoiding a scolding. Kakashi complimented. Naruto gave his big brother a grin and went on to order a bowl of ramen. Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Kurenai had come, in her normal attire. For once I'm earlier than someone. Kakashi teased his compatriot. Naruto blushed when he saw Kurenai and turned away from her. Kurenai took a seat next to Naruto and noticed his light blush. She giggled. What ramen, lady? The shop owner asked Kurenai, preparing another batch. Miso, please, Kurenai said and then turned to the blushing Naruto. So, Naruto. Naruto turned to his crush, mustering a not-so-nervous smile to hide his emotions. I heard that you pulled off a pretty good henge to escape Iruka's wrath, Naru-kun. She loved to see the effects of saying him by his beloved nickname. Like him going crimson and turning an even darker shade every second. It was one of her hobbies. It was nothing, Kurenai-chan. I'm going to be the future Hokage after all. Kurenai smiled at his naivete and went on to eat the ramen that the shop owner had set before her. She was careful not to slurp, as girls don't slurp their food. Well, I got a mission, see you two later. Kakashi said and disappeared in a poof. Naruto frowned. His big brother was supposed to pay the bill this time. I guess I'll have to pay this time, Naruto silently thought. Naruto looked to his crush that was sitting to his right side, slowly eating her food. They burn your lips the first few times, but you'll get used to it. Naruto said. Thank you for the tip, Naru-kun. Kurenai said good-heartedly, smiling slightly. Naruto was about to blush again, but managed to muster a fox grin for her. Naruto was silently thankful that Kakashi had left. Now he had time to be alone with Kurenai and there would be no interruptions or talks between him and her. Yes, he had to pay for their meal, but as the saying goes, there is no free lunch. So Kurenai-chan, would you a few tips on genjutsu while we're here? No, I can't give you any tips on genjutsu, Naruto. Kurenai said. But you're a genjutsu specialist. You're supposed to know these things. That indeed I am, Naru-kun. Naruto went a shade of dark red, making her giggle, but you are still an academy student and you can't possibly understand what I say. I've mastered every ninjutsu that Kakashi taught me except the Chidori. But Kakashi only knows one genjutsu, Naru-kun. So you can't say any more. Naruto cursed his luck before going on to devour his 13th bowl of ramen. Tomorrow is the genin exam, Kurenai-san. Naruto stated silently to her. You worried about the results, huh, Naruto? Don't worry, you'll do fine. It's not that. It's just that is it alright for me to skip and go ahead to Chunin? No, you can't do that. Even Kakashi had to work his way up the ranks. Yeah, I guess. Naruto looked a little disappointed and positively adorable. Whenever Naruto was pouting or had a stubborn face on, he would look cute. Here's something to console you. Kurenai lowered her head to his cheek. Naruto threw a confused look in her direction. What a? Kurenai placed her lips on Naruto's right cheek. Naruto turned red again. Enough to console you until tomorrow. Kurenai teased the blonde. It's alright. But I'd be happy if you put that on the other side too. Don't push your luck, Uzumaki-san. Kurenai said, frowning playfully at him. Naruto shrugged and turned to the front, and the boss put the check before him. Hey, expected, Naruto said simply as he pulled out his wallet. Early next morning, Naruto woke up with his orange pajamas on. Today was the day that he would pass the Genin exam with flying colors. He smiled to himself as he went into the shower, singing an unfamiliar tune. After 20 minutes in the shower, Naruto came out, the white towel that Kurenai had given him, with the cherry blossom patterns on it wrapped around his waist. He put on his black ensemble today, the one that Kakashi gave him a week ago. Naruto took out an apple and sank his teeth into it before taking a pack of instant ramen and leaping out his window. Naruto would love doing this stunt in the morning. It was his wake-up call to the world. Naruto kicked the side wall and jumped onto the roof of a nearby and shorter building, landing acrobatically on his toes. Naruto decided to take the shortcut through the woods to the academy. He ran as fast as he could, not wanting the instructor to tell him off for being late. He arrived in front of the academy and his friends were already there, with Kiba playing around with Akamaru, Shikamaru sitting with his good friend Choji under a tree, and Shino sitting on the other side of the tree doing nothing in particular. Are we early for the exams? Naruto asked his friend, Kiba. Oh, hey, Naruto. Kiba said, tossing his dog friend into the air and making him land on his hooded head. We're early all right. Iruka-sensei is still looking for the papers. Did he try looking for them under the student monthly evaluation papers? Kiba raised an eyebrow at his friend, who just snickered in return. Don't tell me you, Kiba began, his jaw dropping to the ground. Snuck in yesterday to look for my confiscated yo-yo. Instead, found them. But that's cheating. You can't look into the exam papers and read the questions. I didn't read them, Kiba. I just sneaked in to get my yo-yo. But I didn't find it. Kiba could sense that Naruto wasn't lying, so he let the thought go. Suddenly, the school bell rang, signaling the would-be Genins to go inside. Shikamaru and Naruto walked side by side, talking to each other about the exam. Wait, Naruto. Iruka called out to Naruto before he entered the classroom. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What would Iruka-sensei want with him? Unless he had somehow found out that Naruto was the one that sneaked into his office. You'll be taking a different exam, Naruto. Iruka said to his favorite student. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at his teacher, who merely snickered. I'm giving you a personal exam to see if you're fit to be a genin. Naruto listened to his instructor intently, not wanting to hear the wrong things. You will answer 3 questions that I will give you on a sheet of paper in my office now. I will explain the rules for your examination in there. Iruka walked toward his office with Naruto in tow behind him. When Naruto entered Iruka's office, he saw that there were a range of accessories that were actually ninja gear set on Iruka's desk and a pile of rocks and a diamond. There was also a small desk and a chair with a pencil and eraser on it. You are not to exit this room when the exam is taking place. Iruka stated. Why am I taking a different exam from the other students? Naruto asked. Because Sandaime Hokage and Kakashi-san wanted you to take an exam that they and I myself prepared for you. It should prove a challenge. Take a seat, Naruto. Naruto sat at the table, nervous about this exam and wondering what the questions would be like. He hoped that they weren't too hard for his level. Here, Naruto. You have 1 hour before I collect the paper and progress to the second stage of the examination. You begin, now. No cheating. Naruto read the question and his eyes widened. It simply didn't make sense. Question 1. What is the code of a shinobi and what is the purpose of this code? That's my question, Naruto. Make sure you answer it well, okay? Iruka smiled. Naruto decided to skip the question and move on to the second one. Question 2. Why does a shinobi fight? Naruto read on. Not knowing what to write, he was truly clueless on how he would answer this question, so he went on to the third question. Question 3. What does it mean to be Hokage? Naruto smiled at the last question. It was as if it was yesterday that he was asked that by the old pervert, Sarutobi, also known as Sandaime Hokage. To be Hokage means to sacrifice your life to protect the village, to love the ones you hate and care for every soul that resides there. To put it simple, to be Hokage is to be one with the village. Hence the term, Kage, as everything casts a shadow. Naruto smiled to himself as he remembered when he had said that to the old man. Sandaime had smiled at him warmly and gave him his Hokage's hat. He had said that he couldn't accept it, but the old man said he had 20 more back in his office. He could spare Naruto one. The blonde boy accepted it heartily. Naruto wrote what he had said down on the paper, leaving him with 2 more questions left. He studied the second one first, before going on. Naruto remembered that he was shouting to his brother Kakashi one day when he was laughing about his ambition. Naruto set him straight that day. I will protect the people that I care about, Ni-san. Including you and Kurenai-chan. And then I will be Hokage and protect the village. To protect the people he cares about, Naruto repeated in his mind. Naruto, you only have 2 questions left. Do your best. Iruka said, checking up on him. If you answer all of these correctly, I'll treat you to 4 bowls of ramen. That made Naruto all the more determined to pass. Naruto looked at the second question for a good 20 minutes, not realizing that half the time had already passed by. He didn't panic, though. Naruto remembered Kakashi tell him the answer to the second question. A shinobi fights for the good of a mission and to protect the ones they love. Naruto put that answer down on the paper, smiling to himself before looking to the first question, the only question left on the paper. Naruto scanned it thoroughly. What is the code of a shinobi? Naruto asked himself, scratching him temple. Naruto pondered the question, with a certain scarred chunin at his student's attempt to solve it. The blonde youth concentrated on the question for a while. Naruto, if you can't answer the first question, you might as well quit. Naruto snapped himself open and looked at his teacher. He glared. But he didn't answer Iruka or retort his instructor, he just kept silent. The code of a shinobi is to follow the mission to the end and remain true to his village, but what is the purpose of the code? Naruto questioned himself. We have new cannons out there, Naruto. That is what we want to avoid. Only as a village and under the code of a ninja can we be strong. That is why we have the shinobi code to fulfill our mission and remain true to our village and comrades. Naruto's eyes snapped open again, remembering those words from Kakashi and hurriedly scribbling them down. Satisfied, he turned it into Iruka. Iruka's eyes widened at the answers that Naruto had given him. Just like Hokage-sama said, he is 1 in a million, Iruka thought. Iruka looked to his blonde student, who was staring at his feet. You passed the first stage of the exam, Naruto. Iruka said out of pride and relief. Naruto shook his fist at himself, happy and content with his result. On to the second stage of the exam, follow me please, Naruto. Iruka continued. Naruto followed Iruka out of the room and building into the nearby woods. Fight me, Naruto. If you can hit me 10 times before I hit you 10 times, you will pass the exam. If not, you fail and have to repeat the academy. Iruka said. What? Naruto exclaimed, staring at his scarred instructor with wide eyes, but Iruka-sensei, you're a chunin. I'm only an academy student. You're a shinobi. Don't worry about that, Naruto. I heard from Kakashi that you're as good as him even without the Sharingan. So you can at least face me in one-on-one. Naruto cursed under his breath. It was true that he was almost as good as Kakashi, but Kakashi had never used his Chidori in a spar against him. Alright, Naruto. Iruka got into a normal fighting stance, ready for an attack. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. Naruto shouted as breathed out a ball of fire. What in the world? Iruka stared at Naruto's technique and barely dodged it to the left, singing some of his Chunin uniform and turned to Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing with that ninjutsu? You could have killed me. No ninjutsu allowed, Naruto asked his instructor, who didn't answer. Use as much as you want, but a hit only counts if you make a direct hit to me and I didn't manage to block it. Ninjutsu damage doesn't count. From a window in the classroom that showed the outside, Kiba saw what was going on. He knew that Naruto was skilled, but certainly not that skilled. My turn, Naruto. Kaden. Hausenka no Jutsu. Iruka called out, making a few hand seals and unleashing a barrage of fireballs at his student. Naruto dodged the barrage of flames, only to be met by a swift kick from Iruka. Upon hitting Naruto, he turned into a log, making Iruka's eyes widen. Behind you, sensei, Naruto called out, kicking Iruka's back, making Iruka fall. The teacher simply couldn't keep up with Naruto's techniques. Iruka only knew two Kaden, the Hausenka no Jutsu and Karyu Enden, which he avoided use at all times, except when he was full on chakra and desperate. Here I come, Iruka-sensei. Naruto registered another kick to Iruka. Gotcha. Iruka caught Naruto's leg and swung him to a tree. Kawarimi no Jutsu. Naruto turned into a log and reappeared behind Iruka. What? He's fast at doing hand seals, almost as fast as. Take this, Iruka-sensei. Naruto registered an elbow to Iruka's stomach, making him double over in pain, before Naruto sent him into the air with another kick. Kaden. Hausenka no Jutsu. Iruka shouted, releasing another barrage of flames. Suiden. Sukoden no Jutsu. Naruto exclaimed, performing extremely fast hand seals and made water from a decorative fountain outside the academy cancel out the attack, leaving Iruka vulnerable in the air to an attack. Naruto punched Iruka hard in his chest before he landed and Iruka responded with a counter kick to Naruto's shoulder. But Naruto turned into a log again. Naruto appeared above his Chunin instructor and delivered a blow to Iruka's head. Naruto, you're as good as a Junin with your skills. Iruka thought. Naruto, stop, Iruka said, clutching his ribs in pain and holding up a hand. Naruto looked at his confused instructor, who was grimacing. Close your eyes, Iruka said to his student, who raised an eyebrow, just do it. Naruto did as he was told, but not letting his guard down. He felt something was being tied around his head. You can open them now, Iruka said, smiling at a confused Naruto. Naruto saw that Iruka's forehead was bare, and felt his own forehead with his hand. Iruka-sensei. Naruto looked to his teacher, his mouth a grin. Uzumaki Naruto, I declare you a shinobi of Konoha. Iruka said proudly. Naruto's eyes turned into tears as he tackled his already in pain teacher. Naruto laid under the shade of a tree, munching on a chocolate stick as he stared into the sky, as his friend Shikamaru had always done in his free time. Naruto knew why Shikamaru loved to stare at the white figures in the sky. They were very calm and slow-moving to look at, not fast, just slow and relaxing to the eye. Man, if I knew that it was this good to watch the clouds, I would have done this years ago. Naruto said to himself, smiling a very tired but content smile. It was a weekend, which was basically a day off from school. Naruto did not want to disturb his elder brother, who was currently doing some paperwork for a fellow Junin that had a very bad cold. Naruto heard that his name was Genma or something. Naruto had also felt that Kakashi's rather violent and grumpy side was active when he heard a string of curses from the Junin's home as soon as he was about to enter. Naruto had guessed it was due to the extra paperwork. He pitied his brother. Man, I wonder who the teams will be, Naruto thought, looking to the clouds. Naruto just basically laid there, clad in his sky blue attire and staring skywards as Shikamaru had always done, his hands behind his head and a bento that he made himself beside him and not yet open for eating. The blonde suddenly got up and took his lunch before walking to the river that was down the hill. Naruto had thought that he should not slack if he was going to become a genin the next day. He still had the forehead protector that Iruka had given him 2 days before, but he still was not allowed to wear it as he wasn't yet a ninja until the graduation day. The blonde studied the flowing river for a while, remembering the first time his white-haired brother taught him chakra manipulation and control when he was 4. The day had been a hard one, with Kakashi just throwing the young blonde of a cliff and making him land on a dead tree bark that was sticking out the cliff wall. Naruto had screamed and shouted for his brother to bring him back up from a distance of 50 meters down, but Kakashi didn't seem to hear him. But Kakashi taught him one very valuable thing that day, and Naruto would always remember it. Sometimes your strength, skill and brains don't count on a mission, Naruto, but what always counts in a mission is that you have the heart. Climb this cliff and show me, little brother, that you have a strong heart, Kakashi had said. Naruto had tried to climb the cliff with several attempts, but he was still a 4-year-old, he had weak arms. Kakashi had taught him that all he had to do was concentrate chakra into his hand or feet and they would stick to any surface that he desired. Almost 4 solid hours had passed and Naruto was still sitting on the dead bark. Until it was almost sundown, the young boy had been clueless. A strong heart, Naruto repeated to himself, remembering the exercise long ago. At sundown, Kakashi was still waiting for his brother to come up. The 4-year-old Naruto concentrated his chakra flow to be equally distributed to his 2 feet. The young boy put a foot on the cliff wall and slowly walked upwards, taking unsteady steps. He put one foot after the other, and finally, after a few uneasy and tense minutes, Naruto had reached the top of the cliff, panting. Kakashi was sleeping at that time, his perverted book on his face. Naruto chuckled as he remembered that was the same day he invented a taijutsu technique that Kakashi would forever remember as a very painful one. Ancient Konoha forbidden taijutsu move, 100 years of pain, which was basically a kick in Kakashi's private area. Kakashi got up to a world of hurt, of course. The next few hours until midnight the 4-year-old Uzumaki Naruto spent dodging the eventual kunai and shuriken from his pervert of a brother. At the end of the day, Naruto was found asleep in a tree, where he had sought shelter from Kakashi. Kakashi had found him at midnight, more out of worry than of anger. He wanted to do something really mean to his younger brother, but the sight of him asleep was just too cute to disturb. Kakashi damned his younger brother and his adorable looks instead. Naruto walked on the flowing river nervously. He had not perfected his chakra control like his brother, though he was close to it. Kakashi had taught him almost 50 techniques. Most of them were high-level ones that required minimal chakra control, such as the Kaden, Karyuenden, which let forth a missile of flaming chakra. Most of the techniques that Kakashi taught the blonde were techniques that depended on the chakra usage. Which meant the more chakra, the more powerful the attack. Control, Naruto said to himself as he stood on the flowing river concentrating on his chakra control, which was one of the key factors of the strength of Kakashi's most powerful killing move, Chidori. Control is what I need to gain balance and power. Suddenly, Naruto did the hand seals required for the technique, but the chakra didn't make itself visible in his hand. It was just slightly glowing blue with the flow of extra chakra inside his fist. The fist couldn't be any stronger than a chakra enhanced punch. It was definitely a tricky procedure to execute the Chidori. This is harder than I expected, Naruto said simply, slightly smirking at his attempt. Naruto concentrated the chakra to the palm of his hand again, smiling as he had more success this time. The electric blue glow of his hand was brighter, but the half-open fist was still only just about as strong as a chakra enhanced punch. Maybe more success will come my way tomorrow, Naruto said to himself. Hey, Naruto. Kiba poked his sleeping friend's arms for the 3rd time. Naruto had managed to fall asleep in class as soon as he had arrived, which was around half an hour ago. If they only knew what caused Naruto to fall asleep. Naruto had trained until 4 in the morning, trying to perfect his chakra control in order to master the Chidori. Naruto still wasn't able to create a brilliant blue electricity after almost a year of practice, which meant that his control wasn't up to scratch. It also meant that it was almost impossible to do the Chidori for the moment. Shikamaru, who sat 2 seats in front of Naruto, smiled at his canine-using friend's attempt to wake up the blonde, to no success. Meanwhile, Iruka was peeved. I guess I better wake him up now. Iruka sighed as he walked to where Naruto was snoring away, the protective headband Iruka gave him in his left fist. Naruto, the ramen stand is on fire. Iruka whispered into Naruto's ear. Tell them I'll lend Tham money to make a new stand. Naruto said, half asleep. Iruka lost his patience and banged his fist on the top of Naruto's head. Ow, what was that for, Iruka-sensei? Naruto shouted at his teacher. You were asleep in class, idiot. Iruka countered, his voice just as loud as Naruto's, causing the majority of the class to cover their ears shut. Iruka continued, the angry tone still in his voice, I'm about to announce the teams, so pay attention. Iruka went back down to his desk and took out a list from a drawer in his desk. Before I go on, I'd like to congratulate you all on achieving the title of Genin. Iruka began, looking to all his students before him, I am about to announce the teams from my class, which will be teams 6 through to 13. But before that I'd like to give an award to the Outstanding Student of the Year. An award that some of you know as Rookie of the Year. As you all may or may not know, every year has an outstanding rookie in it. The last person to achieve the title was a boy that went by the name of Hyuga Neji, but I don't know him personally, he was in another class. This year, my class contains a person that has been outstanding throughout the year. Sasuke smirked arrogantly, confident the award would be his. Other hopefuls, such as the year's taijutsu specialist, Akamichi Choji, were a bit tensed at getting the award by eating his potato chips slightly faster than usual. Kiba had his fingers crossed and Naruto was just looking lazily to his scarred teacher, wanting to fall asleep again. Naruto honestly did not care who would get the award, he just wanted his teacher to get over with it and announce the teams. The blonde looked over to the Uchiha, who had an arrogant smile on his face. Naruto sighed as he turned away. Iruka took out a scroll, made from cloth and smiled to the students. Rookie of the Year, Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka said with pride, looking to Naruto. The blonde had fallen back into a slumber. Kiba sighed as he looked at his sleeping friend and proceeded to hit him on the head as Iruka had done. But this time, Naruto caught his wrist before the fist landed on his head. I'm awake, you don't have to hit me, Kiba. Naruto said as he released his hold. Naruto walked down to his teacher, who handed him the award, smiling with pride. Congratulations, Naruto, Iruka said to him and added, let's have ramen later. Naruto literally jumped with joy as he heard those words escape Iruka's mouth. Meanwhile, Uchiha Sasuke was fuming. He was cursing in his mind. Of all the people that could have been the receivers of the award, it had to be his rival. Sasuke accepted the fact that he blonde had been almost equal to him, but why did he have to receive the award? Sasuke had shown time and time again that he was the best. But not this time. Not the time when it mattered. He glared at Naruto. Naruto looked at the scroll before him, slightly smiling. This put him a step closer to his dream as Hokage of the village. Kiba looked over to his friend's award. Man, I would give anything to get one of those, you're really lucky. Here. Naruto passed him the scroll, shocking Kiba, you worked harder than I did, you know, Kiba. Take it, I don't that I'll be needing it. Naruto, Kiba looked at the green scroll in his hands, shocked. Consider it a token of our friendship. Naruto finished, still smiling. Naruto was suddenly hugged very tightly by a very emotional Inuzuka Kiba. I love ya man, Kiba exclaimed to the blonde genin, who couldn't breathe. Several male genins backed slowly away from the two boys while most of the females, which included Naruto's and Kiba's fangirls, drooled and let out sighs. Ah, blonde and brunette, that fiery spirit that binds them, one blonde girl thought. Kakashi, you've turned our little brother into a pervert. Iruka thought. Kiba, could you please stop hugging me now? Naruto barely let out. Kiba let go of his friend and gripped the scroll tightly. Naruto smiled. Now that all the excitement is over, I would like to announce the teams. Iruka began, his face business-like. Team 6, Kyugi Nakuru, Amaname Mako and Karasu Choma. Team 7, Uzumaki Naruto, Nara Shikamaru and Inazuka Kiba. Kiba high-fived his newfound teammate. Naruto as the blonde looked to his right, where Shikamaru was seated, and the lazy brunette gave him a thumbs up. Team 8 shall consist of Yamanaka Ino, Haruno Sakura and Uchiha Sasuke. The girls high-fived each other. It was clear to them all that Haruno Sakura had set her sights on the Uchiha, while the blonde girl, Ino, was her best friend and had a secret crush on the lazy genin sitting next to Naruto, the one and only Shikamaru. Of course, Shikamaru was oblivious to anything that had to do with love or crushes. Naruto didn't hear Team 9 being called out, but heard the next one. Team 10 shall consist of Akamichi Choji, Hyuga Hinata and Aburame Shino. Excuse me, I came to pick up my team. Kurenai had entered. Naruto saw her and started to hide under his table, his friends Kiba and Shikamaru looking at him. The only things visible from the front of the desk were his fingers. Akamaru jumped from the comfort of the inside part of Kiba's jacket to check what was wrong with the head of class, Uzumaki Naruto, who was apparently blushing. Oi, Naruto, are you okay, man? You're as red as a tomato. No, a chili. Shikamaru looked at the woman that was standing in front of class. She looks like Naruto's description of the girl he liked, but... Naruto, can that be the angel you told us about a month ago? Naruto mouthed something to his friend that went along the lines of, shut up. Team 7, your Junin instructor is here to pick you up. Iruka called out. Naruto slowly came into view and received a smile of congratulations from Kurenai. The three boys walked slowly to the front and left the classroom after giving a thanks to Iruka and followed their female instructor outside. They were under the shade of a tree from the afternoon sun. Naruto was leaning against the tree bark, Kiba had his hands in his pockets and Akamaru was in his jacket and Shikamaru was on the branch of a tree, looking through the leaves to the clouds. Alright, you three, let me introduce myself. I'm Yuahi Kurenai, a genjutsu specialist. If you may, I like karaoke and my favorite kunoichi comic Hakusen. My dislikes are people who betray their comrades, in battle or otherwise. You. Kurenai pointed her index finger to Kiba, whose dog Akamaru barked eagerly. My name's Inazuka Kiba, I'm quite friendly once you get to know me and this here is my friend Akamaru. I like to watch races at the stadium and dislike my show off of a sister and the Hokage's wife's cat. My dream is to one day be an Anbu captain. To you, the one with the black ponytail. Kurenai looked to Shikamaru. Me. You can call me Shikamaru. I like staring at the clouds and playing shugi if you're a good player. I dislike troublesome things. I don't think I have a dream. Kurenai turned to Naruto, who was still slightly sleepy from training. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen, I guess, and dislike people who look down on other people or are too arrogant for their own good. My dream is to become Hokage. Kurenai raised an eyebrow at how his tone had very much resembled Kakashi's. Alright then, please meet me in front of the Atsui Ravine tomorrow morning at exactly 9 a.m. Kurenai said, earning nods from her new students except for Shikamaru, who barely grunted. I'm a newbie at being an instructor, but I'm just about as strict as Iruka, if not more. You're all dismissed except for Naruto. The other two looked to each other before walking away, leaving their friend to whatever Kurenai might ask or do to him without a care in the world. He did tell them, after all, she was his angel. They took his word for it. Kakashi wanted me to give you this. Kurenai took out a black face mask, which Naruto accepted and put on, hiding everything the bottom part of his face. My, Naruto, you look so cute wearing that. Kurenai complimented, smiling. Under his face mask, Naruto could be seen as red as a tomato. Naruto walked through the streets of Konohagakure no Sato with his new face mask on, hiding the whiskers that separated him from everyone else. It was one of the signs that he was the vessel for the nine-tailed demon fox, Kyubi. He could even see some girls staring at him as he walked past them, most of them his age, but some were older. To Naruto, it was simply another magnet for girls, as when he passed by girls, he could feel their curiosity burning. Naruto arrived at the Atsui ravine, and saw that his two teammates, Kiba and Shikamaru, were already there. They were apparently talking to each other on a large stone. About what? Naruto didn't know at all. He slowly approached them, not as sleepy or droopy as he was yesterday. To tell the truth, Naruto was feeling quite energetic today. After a good rest and breakfast, he was up to form again. Hey, guys, Naruto greeted, smiling under his face mask. How's it going? Oi, Naruto, we've been waiting for you for half an hour. Where were you? Kiba. I got lost on the road of life. Naruto simply said, imitating Kakashi. Since you're all finally here, we can begin. Kurenai said, hanging upside down from a tree, chakra focused to her feet. You three are to get this from me. She held up a golden bell for the three to see. They focused on it intently. But if you use the wrong way of getting it from me, I will send you back to the academy. Kurenai added, smiling evilly at the trio of boys. What? Kiba almost shouted to his new teacher while Shikamaru and Naruto kept quiet as they listened intently to the next words Kurenai would say. What do you mean? I mean that you have to get the bell from me the right way before noon. But what do you mean by the right way? Kiba inquired. Kurenai disappeared from sight as if the wind just blew her away. Man, this is troublesome, Shikamaru drawled as Naruto took out a kunai. She meant teamwork, Naruto said, playing with the kunai in his hands. Naruto signaled something to Shikamaru and Kiba with his eyes and they too disappeared in a flash, leaving a very impressed Kurenai, who was hiding. So he cracked it easily, as expected. Now the challenge begins. Naruto, Shikamaru and Kiba were on the branch of a large tree, planning their strategy to get the bells. Naruto happened to be the strategist. So, that's your plan. Better than mine. Shikamaru grinned at his friend. Let's go on ahead with it, then. Kiba said as Akamaru barked in approval. Naruto nodded to the other two and they vanished from sight, leaving Naruto very much alone on the tree branch. The blonde jumped to another tree branch and onto the ground, dusting his pants off. He looked to his left. He could sense movement. Naruto did several hand seals and disappeared from sight. Kiba jumped from tree to tree and met up with Shikamaru in the clearing. You remember the plan, Shikamaru? Kiba turned to his lazy friend. Shikamaru nodded and they ran, looking for their instructor, Kurenai. Meanwhile, Naruto was running through the forest searching for Kurenai by himself, as Kurenai watched him. Naruto was fast, running here and there, but his tracking techniques weren't as good as Kakashi, but it also proved as an advantage to Kurenai as she had specialized in Genjutsu and Kawarimi no Jutsu. To put it short, Kurenai was an expert at ambushes and the sort. She was a master of hiding in silence, which was one of the high factors if you wanted a clean assassination. Damn it, where is she? Naruto called out, scouting the area around him. At the time, Kiba and Shikamaru were back in a part of the forest, searching for Kurenai and their ticket to becoming a ninja for life. Suddenly, a kunai was thrown their way. The two broke away. So you managed to find me after all. Expected of an Inuzuka clan member. Kurenai had 3 kunais between her fingers of both her hands. But can you really win without Naruto? You need him too, you know. You're absolutely correct, Kurenai-sensei. Kiba said, smiling at the situation. Shikamaru's face imitated Naruto's old fox grin. Meanwhile, Naruto was watched by Kurenai's shadow clone, who was leading him the wrong way by Kurenai's orders as the team's chances of succeeding would be cut in half without him. Suddenly, Naruto poofed into nothing. The clone's eyes widened. Suddenly, Kiba and Shikamaru poofed into nothing. This time Kurenai's eyes widened as she learned what had just happened. She heard a rustling from the trees. Amazing what Kage Bunshin no Jutsu can do, Kurenai-sensei. Shikamaru. The two were in a tree, grinning at her. She was tricked by the genin. You see, Naruto's plan was to distract you with shadow clones of us. He knew you'd be going after us first. So in our places he created clones of us by combining the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu with the Henge no Jutsu. They were the clones. Shikamaru explained Naruto's plan to her, smirking. Pretty good strategy, but why did you just reveal yourself? You've spoiled your element of surprise by showing me where you are. Kurenai said, smirking herself. Do you know that Naruto never split with us? Kiba continued, grinning, the Naruto that's off in the woods is just another shadow clone. Kurenai's eyes widened. She was suddenly tied up in a wire, preventing her arms from moving at all. Behind her was Naruto, the wire connecting to his left fist. A ninja must look underneath the underneath, Kurenai-chan. Naruto mused. Kurenai sighed in defeat and smiled to her students. They truly were a team. You three, pass. Kurenai said, still smiling at them, can you please untie me? Naruto obliged and she handed Kiba the bell. The three of them grinned. Tomorrow, meet me in front of Ichiraku Ramen. Kurenai said, turning away but added, Naruto, you are instated as the team captain. You've proven your qualities. Naruto's eyes widened as Kurenai disappeared in a poof and Shikamaru and Kiba gave him a headlock and words of congratulations barks in Akamaru's case. Today was truly a good day for them all. Naruto may appeared to be calm and reserved on the outside shell, but he was actually a raging storm of frustration and that storm was directed to Mission Command. Naruto knew that they were only genins, but the Hokage must have known of his skills. After all, he was the only non-shinobi boy to beat the traitor Mizuki 4 years ago. That was when Naruto developed his first technique from Kakashi, the Suiryuden no Jutsu. The blonde was peeved and he knew that his two friends were as well. He knew because every time they went on a D-ranked mission, he could see fire of pissed offness, as quoted by Shikamaru, being emanated by his friend Kiba. Naruto had to even restrain Kiba from strangling a cat that they had to retrieve for the Hokage's wife. Tora-chan. Shikamaru was better at not showing that he was frustrated as he had the patience capacity of a large mountain, but Naruto and the others could slowly see that the mountain was beginning to crumble. And when Shikamaru was angry, no one would want to be within 10 feet of him, if the said person valued their life at all. The brunette had picked something up from his mother. When he was angry his strength would equal a whole Anbu squadron. Inoshi, Shikamaru's father, had the bad luck to experience it firsthand when they were 5. Meanwhile, Kurenai had been as calm and collected as ever, not really frustrated by the lack of good missions coming their way. She enjoyed it, but not the others. Naruto was outside the Hokage's building, looking upwards to the window of the Hokage's office. He had to see him today to ask for a B-ranked mission. Naruto knew that the Hokage was aware of his skill, and was here for the reason why the missions haven't been coming his way. Naruto walked up the stairs of the building and saw 2 Anbu guards outside the office, both talking about a dirty topic. Have you seen the new Make Out Paradise video, Hito? I heard it's really good. With all their scene footage and girls. I'm borrowing one from Kamachi. Well, I really don't have time. And my girlfriend would kill me if she knew I was reading the books, let alone watch the video. I don't want to risk it. Naruto walked up to both of them, who were oblivious that a blonde boy had appeared before them, wearing a face mask. They continued talking about the video. Why don't you come to my house and we'll watch it with the guys? Excuse me, I'm here to see the Hokage. Naruto piped up, drawing their attention. The one wearing a dog mask, Hito, looked at the half-masked blonde that had his hands in his pockets and had lazy eyes in place. He bent down to his height. Why are you here to see the Hokage, little boy? He asked. I need to see him about my team's missions. They're all too lame, Naruto said. And may I ask what kind of mission are you requesting as a genin? B-ranked or A-ranked? Naruto said simply and suddenly heard a snicker. It was the taller of the two, the one who was leaning to the wall. Naruto frowned. Aren't you a bit too inexperienced to get a B-ranked mission, let alone A rank? So is the Hokage in? Naruto asked, looking at the tall Anbu. Yes, he is in, but you cannot see him. He has more important members to attend to than talk about missions for a genin team, he said, making Naruto frown more. Sorry, but I have to see him now. Naruto proceeded to walk through the doors, only to be stopped by the blade of the Anbu that was leaning by the wall. You want me to make this painful for you, don't you? Naruto stated simply. Suddenly, Naruto started making extremely fast hand seals, surprising the Anbu. Raiden. Raidaraden no Jutsu. Naruto thrust his left hand forward, sending the Anbu member through the door and in the process, demolishing it. Naruto walked in, not minding the twitching Anbu on the ground in front of him and shocked one behind. Naruto, how many times have I told you not to do that to the Anbus that are outside my door? Now look at it, it's destroyed for the umpteenth time. The Hokage was at his desk, the same dirty book that Kakashi read almost every day in his hands. Naruto took a seat in front of the desk as if nothing happened. You there, pick this man up and get him patched up, the Hokage ordered. The other Anbu obliged, though still shocked from Naruto's technique. What are you here for, Naruto? The Hokage turned to the blonde genin, frowning. Naruto couldn't continue as a scream was heard from the hallway. Ino, I don't think. Kakashi's voice was heard from the hallway, pleading. Kakashi-sensei, I absolutely refuse to go and rescue that cat again. Ino shouted. Team 8 were at the door. Kakashi was their instructor, though by force. The Junin had made it clear to the Hokage that he wanted to be a normal Junin again. His request was denied by the Hokage. And now he was stuck with the. Sakura was next to Sasuke, looking slightly annoyed and frustrated. Sasuke, on the other hand, was as stoic as ever, hands in his pockets and frowning. Ino was just plain angry, and Naruto thought that he knew why. It was about the missions. Oh, Kakashi, what are you and your team here for? The Hokage asked. I don't want to go on another D-ranked mission that involves that stupid cat. Ino had answered for him, and Naruto silently agreed. That cat was more pesky than a plague of rats. Naruto turned to the others and found out that they too were agreeing. Alright, I'll give you both another mission, be ranked. The Hokage sighed. Thank you, God, no more cat rescues, Naruto thought silently. Naruto, alert your team of this mission. It begins tomorrow. The old man said, and Naruto nodded before the old man continued, you shall team up with Team 8. Naruto got up early and dressed himself neatly and quickly before heading down the stairs of his apartment, his face mask in place. The blonde rushed to the main gate of Konoha with his rucksack, bringing along with him his utilities and tools. Naruto's and Sasuke's teams had a mission to protect an individual that went by the name of Tazuna. He had to get to the Kurigakure under protection to reinstill the prosperity of the Wave Country. It was not going to be an easy task, as the rumors of two S-class Nukennons were involved in the opposite corner of the mission. Hey, Naruto, Kiba called out to him, waving a hand in greeting. Naruto saw that his team was there with Tazuna and Sakura and Ino, but there were no signs of Kakashi or Sasuke in the vicinity. Naruto walked over to the group. Hey guys, how's it going? Naruto greeted his team, waving a hand in return. We're about to set off. Shikamaru said, a happy air surrounding him. Yeah, that guy, Kakashi, I saw him stop by at a bookstore on my way here. Kiba said as Akamaru gave a bark, don't know why, though. Naruto's lips turned into a grimace, knowing why his older brother had stopped. Suddenly, Kakashi and Sasuke appeared in a puff of smoke before them, Kakashi scratching the back of his head in apology and Sasuke showing no emotion as usual. Naruto sighed. He could never get used to his brother being late at any time. Alright then, now that we're here, let's all go on with our mission. Kiba said. This earned nods from the ninjas and a grunt from Sasuke, who definitely had some kind of attitude problem that needed fixing. Kakashi was trying to fix it, but sometimes you need the necessary tools for a certain kind of fixing, and Kakashi did not have the correct tools for the repair that Sasuke needed. The team walked on for a while, Kiba whistling a tune to himself, Shikamaru having his hands in his pockets, looking to the sky as a slightly red Ino was walking right beside him. Sasuke was trying to ignore a begging Sakura, who was trying to weed out a date from him. Kakashi was walking beside Tazuna, quite silent. Kurenai was walking next to Naruto, who was at the tail of the group, looking to the front. Suddenly, Naruto stopped as the team walked on. Kurenai turned to him. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Kurenai asked as Naruto's eyes were directed at a puddle. The puddle, actually, two puddles, were at the side of the road. Naruto drew a kunai. The puddles turned into two ninjas, both wielding heavy harpoons in their hands. "We are the demon brothers. Now hand over that old man you got over there." Naruto basically sighed at the synchronized voice of the two ninjas. He then turned to Kakashi, who looked like he was smiling, then to Kurenai, who was indeed smiling. The other genins except Shikamaru had huddled around Tazuna, kunais drawn. "Finish them quick, Naruto. We need to get to Wave Country soon," Kakashi said. "Are you looking down on us? We're the..." one of them began to say, but Naruto had created a shadow clone, who had its kunai drawn and threatening to slit the ninja's throat. The other ninja backed away for a moment. This boy was more dangerous than he looked. He charged at the original Naruto, who merely moved aside. Kurenai was in the path of the ninja, but got out of the way, moving right. Suddenly, Naruto vanished from sight and reappeared behind the ninja. "Who in the world are you?" the now trembling ninja asked, beads of sweat visible. Naruto did not answer him but knocked him unconscious with a blow to his head with his elbow as his shadow clone did the same to the other ninja. The speed and the way Naruto handled the two ninjas impressed all of the present genins that stood there, rooted to the spot, watching a whistling Naruto walk back to the group after tying the demon brothers, as they were known, upside down from a nearby tree. "Let's get on with our journey then, guys," Naruto said, as though nothing happened. The genins slowly moved away from their formation that was intended to protect Tazuna. Naruto kept quiet as he walked with his friends and his brother. The genins were quite impressed with Naruto, but Sasuke was turning green with envy. How could the blonde be any better than him? He was convinced he was the best. Meanwhile, hiding from them, was a mist Junin with a white face mask covering half his face. He silently watched the ninjas walk through the woods, half of his mind impressed that the genin had eliminated his men so easily, the other frustrated that such a ninja was in the group that he was to wipe out. And to add it all up, there was Hatake Kakashi in the group, the powerful and feared copy ninja. "Hello there, Zabuza." A shark-like man greeted him from behind, grinning. "Kisame." Zabuza turned to face the man, frowning. "What are you doing here?" "I've decided to take a breather from my partner. He's a bit too unemotional. I don't have time to talk to you, Kisame. I have a job to do," Zabuza said. Suddenly, Kisame pulled out his sword and Zabuza blocked it with his. "Your skills still haven't gone down one bit. Nor have they improved." Kisame used the force of his arms to try and bring his blade upon Zabuza, snickering. "HMPH. I have things to do. Maybe later, we can finish," Zabuza said as he and Kisame put their swords back in their sheaths on their back. Kisame suddenly vanished. About 5 seconds after his vanishing act, a masked person appeared. "Zabuza-san, who was that man?" "He was powerful," the masked person asked. "And old, friend," Zabuza said, almost saying the last word in disgust before turning to the masked person. "Don't need to worry. Let's go." They vanished on sight as the shark-like man watched, smirking. At the time, Naruto and the others were walking up a road going uphill, Tazuna leading the way, followed by Kakashi and Sasuke and the rest of the group. Naruto was at the back of the group with Kiba and Shikamaru, talking about the fight that they had just witnessed between Naruto and the demon brothers. "Man, Naruto, I have never seen you move that fast. You're really skilled, Kiba said, smiling at his friend as Naruto did the same under his mask. Well, Kakashi Nichin has been teaching me for almost all my life. I think that I owe more credit to him than to myself. He really is a good brother. Your speed was almost blinding to the eye, Shikamaru said, catching the attention of the two boys. What kind of technique did you use? Naruto sighed in defeat as he proceeded to explain his accomplishments and abilities. It was not that big a secret, but he did not like to brag about it. I've been wearing weights since I turned 7. Kakashi gave me a 20-kilogram suit to wear for training, and every time it felt like I could walk normal again, he would add 15 more kilograms. This continued until I was 11, and by then I had a 140-kilogram suit on for training. Naruto explained, happy to tell the story. I took them off at 11 because it was time to learn techniques, and since the weights have taken their effect on me, I can perform seals faster. Kiba and Shikamaru looked to their friend and were impressed by far. Kurenai giggled as she saw Naruto talk animatedly with his teammates. It always brought her joy whenever Naruto was like that. Happy and friendly. That's how boys should be. As Naruto talked to his friends, Ino was catching glimpses of Shikamaru, who was one of the conversationalists in the group at the back. Sakura smiled mischievously to her blonde fellow Kunoichi. She took this as a perfect opportunity to tease her. Hey Ino, why don't you go tell him? Sakura egged on, pointing to the brunette at the back, still having the mischievous smile on her face. You like him, don't you? Shut up, Ino whispered to Sakura, who just kept her smile plastered firmly on her face. It showed no signs of coming down for a while. She added, forehead girl. If there was one thing that would make Sakura angry, it was the mention of that teasing name. She knew she had a large forehead, but she did not like being constantly informed that she did have one, let alone be teased of having a large forehead. Sakura frowned at her friend before turning red with anger. The girls argued for a while as Naruto and the boys shifted to a different topic. Girls are troublesome, Shikamaru said, watching the two feisty females fight. You know, I agree with you, Shikamaru, the female species are very hard things to understand. They're always saying one thing, but mean another. One time, my sister asked me if I could go to the pharmacy and buy her some bandages. I got her the bandages and then she threw them back at me in my face for not getting the ones with the scent. Kiba said, huffing at the end of his words as Akamaru barked. I don't think the female species is that bad, Naruto began, and Kurenai, who was sneaking an ear into the conversation, smiled at his words. They may be sophisticated and sometimes shy and sometimes loud, but tell me if you want a girl for the rest of your life that just listens to your orders, cooking and cleaning, it's all dull. That's why they got all these personalities, so that you can enjoy them more. This earned him a hit on the head by Kurenai, who had done so he would not continue with his words. It seemed that being with Kakashi had a side effect of Naruto being slightly perverted. As Naruto massaged his head, the boy looked at his crush, who went on ahead with Kakashi, wondering why she had hit him. Ouch! That. Naruto did not finish his words as a gigantic sword fell at them from above. Naruto tackled his friends Kiba and Shikamaru to the ground, a good 4 feet away from where the sword was. Naruto got up and so did Kiba and Shikamaru, who both went to protect Tazuna in case of any attack. Suddenly, a man leapt onto the hilt of the sword. Kakashi's visible eye could be seen frowning as a bead of sweat came down his face. Who is that? Kurenai questioned, watching the shirtless man with the face mask. The demon of the mist, Momochi Zabuza. Kakashi answered her question. Zabuza looked down at Naruto, who had taken a loose style of taijutsu. So you're the brat that beat up my men. Zabuza said, apparently smirking. Naruto, back off. This guy is an S-ranked criminal. Kakashi barked as he ran to his younger brother, and when he finally reached him, shielded him off. It's going to be a hard battle for us to fight, unless, Naruto, protect the others. Naruto knew what Kakashi was going to do. He followed the Junin's orders. Kakashi looked up into the eyes of Zabuza, who just kept smirking at him. Kakashi lifted his forehead protector, revealing his infamous Sharingan, with 3 strikes. Kakashi turned to look at the team, who backed off a good 10 feet away from Zabuza and Kakashi. The sight of the Sharingan surprised Sasuke. Impossible, Sasuke said, shocked, looking at the blood-red Sharingan. Naruto, meanwhile, smirked at Zabuza, who jumped down from the hilt of his sword and drew it from the ground and put it back in the sheath on his back. Let's begin, Zabuza declared as he charged at Kakashi in attempt to punch him. Kakashi blocked the punch, but since it was enhanced by chakra, he was thrown back by the additional force registered by the power of the chakra. Kakashi stopped on water. He was standing on a great lake, it seemed, whatever it was. Then it him. Zabuza was a ninja that based his techniques upon the water. Zabuza came charging at Kakashi, missing this time, but smirked. Another Zabuza leapt out of the water and kicked Kakashi in the stomach. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura screamed out the name of her Junin instructor. Has he been here planning this trap all along? Kakashi thought. Suddenly, another Zabuza appeared from under the water, performing hand seals in extremely fast rushes before extending one hand to Kakashi and smiling maliciously. Suoro no Jutsu. A bubble-like sphere covered Kakashi as Zabuza stood there. Kakashi-sensei was defeated, Sakura said in barely a whisper, covering her mouth with her hands, watching her now trapped teacher. How can he? Kurenai was about to move into action when, without warning, several needles hit her limbs, thrown from the woods, making her drop down to the ground, cursing. What the hell? Kiba exclaimed as he watched his teacher on the ground, unmoving. This isn't good. We're at a clear disadvantage. Damn needles, Kurenai cursed, trying to move her limbs to no avail. Suddenly, a kunai was thrown at the closest of the Zabuza clones. It turned into normal water again. Zabuza frowned as he watched as Naruto slowly got up. The blonde took out a folded Fuma shuriken from his rucksack. Release Kakashi now, Naruto ordered as he took a step closer to Zabuza. Naruto, back off, this guy is too strong, even for you. Kakashi called out. Damn, I forgot about this annoying kid, Zabuza thought, frowning. Suddenly, the masked person that Zabuza had talked to before appeared before him. Haku, didn't I tell you to be my backup? Zabuza said to the person. I'm sorry Zabuza-san, but I saw you in trouble. The boy named Haku said, this boy is not an ordinary opponent as a genin. Let me take care of him. Zabuza didn't say anything but grunt as Haku took out 2 needles for each hand. Before we fight, tell me what your name is. Haku said. Uzumaki Naruto. Let's begin, then, Naruto said, dashing at Haku. Haku saw the blur that was his opponent and threw a needle at him. Naruto deflected it back with a kunai and spun himself back. As they fought on water, Zabuza decided to have a talk with his prisoner. Your student is quite good as a genin, but Haku will win. Zabuza bragged. That boy is not my student, Kakashi said, his eyes not facing Zabuza as he was watching the 2 boys fight on the water. He's my brother. Naruto stood a fair distance from Haku, but knew that if the longer he kept the distance between them, the better the chances of Haku hitting him with one of his needles. Naruto had to do something. The skills of his opponent were almost level with him, if not Kakashi's. Naruto had speed on his side, but Haku had the better eye for hitting. He had to engage Haku in close combat to win. Naruto suddenly had a brainstorm. It was a long shot, but it had a high chance of succeeding. Kakashi saw Naruto create 4 shadow clones of himself. Each had a kunai in their hands. The 5 Narutos charged at Haku, who was now outnumbered. They engaged him in taijutsu, and Haku couldn't keep blocking forever. Suddenly, from under the water, emerged another Naruto. Everyone's eyes widened as the new Naruto did several hand seals as Zabuza had. Suoro no Jutsu. Now Naruto had captured Haku, Zabuza's eyes widened. Naruto dispelled his clones and his eyes met with Haku's angry ones. Release Kakashi or else. Naruto left his threat hanging. In the background, several cheers were heard from the others. Yeah, kick his, Naruto. Kiba cheered on, punching into the air. Yeah, go Naruto-kun. Sakura shouted, her mood enlightened. They heard a chuckle, a loud chuckle. Zabuza was suddenly laughing, tears threatening to escape his eyes. Naruto frowned. Do what you want with him. He is nothing but a tool to me. Zabuza called out. Naruto did not answer Zabuza, but kept his gaze on his eyes. You're lying. Naruto answered, looking from Zabuza to Haku and back. Zabuza was taken aback by Naruto's response. He looked to Kakashi. How do you know I'm lying, huh? You can just kill him for all I care. Naruto kept silent for a while and looked into Zabuza's eyes. It's your eyes, Zabuza-san. Naruto said, shocking Zabuza, your eyes tell me everything. This person is not your tool. You look at him with the same eyes that Kakashi gives me. The eyes of a brother, not a tool wielder. And to everyone's shock, Naruto released his hold upon Haku. Haku got up. Why? Haku questioned, looking to Naruto. Because you're like me, Naruto said simply, smiling to Haku. Zabuza looked to Kakashi and released him as well. Kakashi got up. Oi! Zabuza turned to Kakashi, who was still shocked from the release. That's some kid you've got with you, Sharingan Kakashi. Kakashi smiled to himself and then proceeded to walk to Naruto, passing Haku. He stopped in front of Naruto, who was smiling under the face mask. Come here, you. Kakashi engulfed Naruto in the tightest hug he could muster. Meanwhile, Zabuza and Haku were facing each other, not talking. Suddenly, Zabuza punched Haku so hard his mask fell off, revealing the feminine face of a shocked Haku and then engulfed him in an extremely tight hug. Are you okay, little brother? Zabuza asked. Of course, Zabuza-Nisan. Haku replied. They all stood quietly on the boat, not wanting to draw any unwanted attention. Zabuza and Haku were among their ranks, not saying a word as well. The thick fog that served as natural camouflage for Kurigakure was all around them. Naruto was at the front, sitting with Haku as the raven-haired teenager was trying to avoid stares and the occasional drool from Sakura's mouth and eyes. Zabuza was sitting, cross-legged on the left side of the boat next to a rather nervous oarsman, who was clearly fearful of Zabuza's intensive and battle-hardened looks. Kakashi was sitting at the back of the boat with Sasuke and Ino, calculating their next move once they reached land. Kurenai was sitting to Naruto's right, next to Shikamaru and followed by Sakura. Kiba was sitting nervously next to the demon of the mist, not quite trusting him. Tazuna, could you please give us a heads up on the situation? Kakashi inquired. Tazuna nodded before taking out a blueprint from his rough and torn rucksack. What's that? Kiba inquired, looking at the sketches and designs before him. It's a planning sheet for a structure, I think. Ino said, looking at the blueprint. That's right. I am building a bridge to connect the wave country and the fire country to restore prosperity. Tazuna began to explain, slightly grinning at the hard work he put in for the design, but one evil man thinks I am in the way of his business dealings. He knows if this bridge is to be completed, his business would go down. May I ask who is this man that wants you dead, Tazuna-san? Kurenai asked. He's a wicked and cruel man that goes by the name of Getu. Tazuna said darkly. Gato? As in the Getu of the Getu Industrial Corporation? Kakashi inquired. Yes. Zabuza answered in Tazuna's place, his eyes closed in deep thought. He hired me to take out you guys and kill this man. But he has yet to give the payment. And I doubt he will. Haku added at the end of Zabuza's sentence, he smells like a rat and acts like a tricky weasel. But I think that now we're on your side, I doubt he would be much of a threat to your mission. Naruto turned to the long-haired brunette, taking out a kunai and fiddling with it. Haku, would you and Zabuza come back to Konohagakure with us? Naruto asked. The request shocked everyone except Kakashi and Kurenai, who both slightly smiled at Naruto's question. Haku looked from Zabuza to Naruto and then smiled. I don't know if I could. Me and Zabuza Nisan are wanderers, you see, we don't have a home or anything after we return. Haku said, slightly grimacing at the fact. You can have the vacant room in my apartment. The landlady had an extra 2-bedroom apartment on the floor above me, so you guys can move in. Naruto said, smiling at Haku, who looked plain shocked. As for a job to pay off the rent for the apartment, I'm sure that the old man will be happy to accept 2 new ninjas. Zabuza snickered at Naruto's logic while Haku just looked shocked at the blonde genin with the face mask, who was apparently grinning. Kakashi sighed at Naruto's words. He really did not like his new friends getting off the hook that easily. Well, since I cannot argue with that logic, I guess I'll give Konoha a try. Haku's shocked face turned to Zabuza, who was apparently grinning at Naruto. Naruto, would you care to show us around once we get to Konoha? Naruto nodded happily. Kurenai looked at the blonde with wistful eyes. He was always alone because of the burden he had to bear with since he was a baby. Well, we're here, the oarsman said, stopping at the shore, slightly tired. Steering a boat of 12 people, including himself, did seem rather tiring. The group of people got off the boat as Tazuna was wished luck by the oarsman as he paddled away from the shore. Naruto saddled up his gear as he walked next to Zabuza, focused on the mission. Somehow, he knew the mission could only get harder after this. He did not know why, but he could feel it in his bones. They continued to walk until they saw a village before them. It was quite a sight to them. Poor run-down old houses and buildings were in abundance. They were honestly shocked from what they were seeing. The group had obviously never seen such a sight before. They scanned the streets as children were crying by the side, old people were leaning against buildings and the rundown shacks. So this is wave country, Naruto thought to himself, looking around. These poor people, how can they live like this? Sakura thought. This way to my home, you guys. Tazuna called out from way in front, waving a hand to them as a signal to follow him through these streets. They followed him until they reached a slightly messy-looking building, but on the outside there were some flowers planted in an effort to make it look better. This is my humble home, come on in. Tazuna beckoned them. Me and Haku have to take care of business first, Tazuna-san, please excuse us. Tazuna gave them a friendly nod as the others followed the old man inside. The house was not really messy or dirty. It had been kept clean and tidy on the inside. Tsunami, I'm home, Tazuna called out, taking off his sandals. A woman a few years older than Kurenai walked in and saw her father and the ninjas he had with him. She turned on the lecture mode from her female genes. Father, why did you go off like that? Tsunami fumed at the old man. Well, you see, I had to go and hire some ninjas as my bodyguards. Tazuna explained, turning to the group of 8 who just stood there. Zabuza and Haku were sitting on a tree branch, watching the village from the outskirts. They did not know why they were there in the first place, but it was a good place to sit down and think, whether they wanted to be there or not. Some chimneys were lit in the village, emitting smoke into the dark sky. Neither of the two had stated a word to the other. The silence was as tense as anything. Haku sighed. So after this we're going to be leaf nins. Haku said, trying to set up a talk. Yes. Zabuza said simply, his hands clasped together, thinking. Haku did not think that he would go on, but he proved it wrong. That boy Naruto, he is special. Haku looked to his teacher for the past 9 years, who was still thinking. Yes, he is a special one, Zabuza Nisan. Haku said after Zabuza, smiling at him. I would never have thought that anyone could look past my exterior. Zabuza began, his voice one of a wise man giving advice, but he did. He looked into my eyes and told me what I was and what you were to me, a brother, Haku. Haku did not answer Zabuza for a while, keeping silent but genuinely happy that he was admitted by Zabuza as his brother. He could still feel that bone-crushing hug. Do you know why I took you in the first time, Haku? Zabuza said, Looking to the sky, reminiscing as Haku nodded, I thought I could use you as a tool. A weapon. Zabuza forced himself to continue, but as I trained you, I watched you grow, Haku, I could not at all be a weapon to me. I took you to heart. You were like me when I was young, a child not wanted by anyone, yet you were strong and did not have the heart to kill. I know that you were a boy so pure that I could not corrupt you to turn into what I am now, a killing machine. So I just trained you, for a new purpose, for you to live on as a proud ninja. Not take the path that I have trodden, because you were too good for that path. I think it was then, Haku, that I thought that you as my brother. Zabuza looked to Haku, who had tears in his eyes. The conversation had turned emotional for him and the films of salt were slowly leaking out of them, surprising the former demon of the mist. He looked puzzled at the young boy who was crying. Haku, are you crying? Zabuza asked, the teasing tone in his voice. Haku exclaimed, wiping the tears away with his long sleeve as Zabuza began to snicker at his brother. No, I'm not. I just got something in my eye. But both of your eyes are leaking tears, Haku. Come here, Zabuza said, slinging one arm around the neck of the teenager, apparently smiling, and said with a slight snigger, well, Haku, sometimes you are just too innocent, you know. Haku continued to sob, but he constantly tried to stem the flow of tears as Zabuza had taught him, a good ninja never shows his tears. He had taken those words to heart, but the boy just could not take it. He was too happy that Zabuza had accepted him as a family, much like when Naruto was brought into Kakashi's family. Meanwhile, Naruto was in the room that he was sharing with Kiba, Shikamaru and his elder brother, Kakashi. Kakashi was nowhere to be seen as he too, like Zabuza, had claimed to have some business to attend to. Kiba and his dog friend Akamaru were asleep, the former's right foot kicking Shikamaru in the face as he slept. Shikamaru seemed unaffected by the kicks that Kiba were dealing him, and Naruto could have sworn that Shikamaru talked in his sleep, when he heard the word, troublesome, escape the ponytailed Genin's lips an hour ago. The blonde looked out the window to the streets. They were extremely quiet. Not a sound could be heard. Yo! Naruto turned around to find his brother leaning by the wall on his right. Hey, Kakashi Nichan, Naruto said to the white-haired man, slightly grinning. You couldn't sleep too, Kakashi asked Naruto, who just kept grinning. No, I have a feeling of what the mission would be like. And the feeling is that this is not going to be an easy mission at all. Naruto said. Well, no B ranked and above missions are easy, Naruto. You should know that. Naruto smiled under his face mask at Kakashi as the tall man did the same. Now go to sleep, me and Kurenai are going to train all of you tomorrow. Naruto nodded as he slipped into one futon and drifted off to the world of dreams. Everyone woke up very early the following day and the girls of the group were helping Tsunami prepare breakfast for everyone. Naruto stood outside, leaning against the wall of the house watching people walk by, some eyeing him suspiciously as they passed Tazuna's house. Naruto ignored them. In the house, Kiba and Shikamaru were having a round of shugi and Sasuke was looking outside the window of the house for any activity going on. Needless to say, there were no suspicious activities going on. Kakashi, meanwhile, was reading his latest volume of Make Out Paradise. Back outside, Naruto decided to take a walk out in the woods. He had had his breakfast early, whipping himself up some onigiri. He had told Kakashi that he would not be joining them for breakfast. The blonde youth walked through the nearby woods, looking to his left and right as he started to train. He smirked. Come on out, Haku, Zabuza-san. Naruto called out and a kunai was thrown at him. Naruto caught it by the handle and smirked at the thrower, Zabuza. You had your breakfast, Zabuza? Naruto asked. Now smiling, Zabuza nodded. Haku jumped down from a branch of a large tree, his mouth stained with fruit remains. Naruto did not know what to make of the messy remnants. Haku, wipe your mouth clean. Naruto said, though it was more of an order. Haku frowned at him and then looked to Zabuza, who pointed the stains out to his own mouth. Haku frowned back towards Naruto before wiping them off. So what are you here for, Naruto? Zabuza asked, arms crossed. To train, of course, Naruto said, as if it was obvious. He threw the kunai back. Zabuza caught it by the handle as Naruto had done. He drew his sword out and supported it on his shoulders, smiling under his face mask to Haku then to Naruto. Well, since I'm here, I might as well give you a few tips on fighting. Zabuza said, nodding to Haku, who ran to Naruto's side, both of you come at me. Naruto nodded to Haku, who nodded back. They dashed Zabuza, Haku with needles between his fingers and Naruto with his taijutsu skills. Zabuza blocked the blows with his sword, not flinching at all at the attempts made by Naruto and Haku. Naruto hits like a river flowing down a mountain, Zabuza thought. Haku came at Zabuza from behind and tried to kick him, but Zabuza turned into a log, which, because of the force Haku registered to his kick, flew at Naruto, but luckily, the blonde performed his own Kawarimi no Jutsu. Haku apologized. Zabuza was now on a tree, smirking at them. Naruto was much better than he expected. His attacks with his fists were fast and fluid, as he had thought, like the flow of a river down a mountain. If Zabuza did not have the wide blade of his sword, he was sure that the punches and kicks would have hit him. Taijutsu is quite balanced between attack and defense, ninjutsu. Zabuza thought. Zabuza decided to perform a few techniques to test how good this boy really was. He had only caught a glimpse of Naruto's technique usage at the battle yesterday. Naruto. Zabuza called out, his eyes signaling to Haku what he was thinking. Naruto looked upwards as the man jumped down, performing a few hand seals and creating 3 water clones from the Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu. Creating water clones here would not be that hard, since there was a light mist surrounding them. Naruto performed a few hand seals himself and threw his head forward. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Naruto breathed out a missile of fire into the tiger seal and Zabuza dodged it, although the flames singed the cloth of his forehead protector. That was a high-level fire country technique. This boy, Zabuza got up. Zabuza Nisan, are you okay? Haku asked him, slightly worried. Sorry, Zabuza-san, but the water density of your Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu was just too tough for normal hits by my own clones. I had to do that to destroy them. Zabuza began to laugh heartily before putting his hand on Naruto's head. You'll make a fine ninja, Uzumaki Naruto. Zabuza said truthfully. Zabuza grinned under his face mask and put his hands behind his head, content. For another half an hour, Naruto sparred with Haku in taijutsu, which Haku was surprisingly good at. His speed was just below Naruto's, but the boy was making up for it with very tricky fake punches and moves. Naruto used his flowing taijutsu style, weaving in and out of Haku's defense and offense. At the end of the half an hour in which they trained, Naruto was looking triumphant. The match had looked like it ended in a draw, but because of Naruto's stamina, he had edged out the win. Looks like I win, Haku. Naruto said to Haku, who was panting. Haku laughed at his defeat as Zabuza sat on the tree, watching the fight. He noticed that Haku's taijutsu had increased in both skill and speed thanks to Naruto. Why I should have knocked that brat down. Ino's voice was heard. Yeah, I agree with you. Who does he think he is? Kiba's voice. The rest of the band of ninjas were here, with a very lazy Shikamaru bringing up the rear and a smug Sasuke leading the group. Kakashi and Kurenai were behind him. Morning, Naruto, Zabuza, Haku. Kurenai greeted as the three nodded in response. Naruto then noticed that Sakura was not with them. Kakashi explained that she had gone to protect Tazuna as he was building the bridge. I'm going to join her in a moment, Naruto. Kurenai said, I need you to teach your friends here proper chakra control by walking on trees. Naruto nodded as he turned to his friends, who were quite confused by the words that Kurenai had said. Kakashi, however, had understood them perfectly, because Naruto was the most skillful one after Kakashi, he had been told to help train the team. Kakashi, of course, took this as a chance to escape the chore of teaching them. Naruto, I think that you should teach my team the basics of chakra control too. I think I'll go and take Sakura's place. Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Well, Naruto, good luck. Kurenai said to him, smiling as she walked away. Naruto turned to the genins that were before him. It would be an almost impossible chore to teach them. They were his age, for crying out loud. Naruto smiled nervously under his mask and scratched the back of his head. Well, I guess I'll be, Naruto began, but there was a puff of smoke and Kakashi and a very confused Sakura was before them all. Well, Naruto, here's my last student, teach them well, okay? Kakashi said. Kakashi disappeared again, leaving a scowling Naruto. Then, the blonde remembered, Zabuza. He could help him, but when he turned around, he saw that Zabuza was gone and only Haku remained. He cursed under his breath. Well, Haku's better than no one to help, Naruto thought. Haku had thought that he would help Naruto. He looked so helpless. So Naruto, do you want me to split them in half? Haku asked. Yeah, you take Ino and Sakura and I'll take Sasuke, Kiba and Shikamaru. Haku did so and walked the girls away from the group of boys. Alright, since Kurenai sensei and Kakashi sensei are doing the mission, I guess that I'll help train you guys. Naruto began, today we practice chakra control. Kiba watched intently as Naruto focused a certain amount of chakra to his feet and slowly walked up a tree bark. His friends looked on in awe as Naruto did this as if it was an everyday thing to him. It was, since he wanted to learn the Chidori. Sasuke was the first to try without Naruto even telling him to. But after 4 steps up, he fell back down, earning a guffaw from Kiba. Sasuke glared at him and he glared back. Naruto proceeded to explain things before Sasuke did it again. I know that you want to get to the top fast, but try walking up first and then, once you reach the top, try running. Naruto explained. Amazingly, the boys had grasped the knowledge pretty quickly and almost instantly. After a period of 3 hours, the 3 boys had finally reached the top by walking. The first one to reach the top was Kiba, followed by Sasuke and finally Shikamaru. It was already in the afternoon and Haku had finished the training for the girls. Amazingly, the girls had reached the top of their trees on their 4th try. But Haku had explained that because their chakra capacity was low, it was easier to control. Why don't we go surprise Kakashi and Kurenai with your new skills? Naruto said. The girls cheered, the boys grunted but Kiba said something about being hungry. Haku heard Kiba's words and took out a bag that contained onigiri, which everyone happily ate on the spot except for Naruto. He'd had too much onigiri for one day. Hey, Naruto-kun, how come you're so good? Sakura asked him. Well, you see, I've been practicing since I was 4 thanks to Kakashi. You'd think that his training would be as easy as his laid-back attitude seemed, but boy is he tough. He threw me down a cliff once to practice my chakra control. Naruto's last words pretty much shocked his friends. Naruto grinned at them. After a while, Naruto and the others finished eating their food and walked toward the bridge that was still in construction. They saw a mist was surrounding the area and the mist, to all of them, seemed abnormal. They cautiously walked into the mist. Something was not right. Nothing was right in this setting. The village had a lot of mist in its streets, but this looked more like a fog. Naruto could not see anything that was more than a meter away from him. Something was truly wrong. Suddenly, they heard the sound of metal clashing with metal. Naruto could see the mist getting thinner as he heard the sounds of clashing metal getting louder. The group of genins in Haku suddenly saw a shark-like man that was fighting with Zabuza, HS sword, the Kubikiri Haucho drawn. Kurenai and Kakashi were at his flanks, each with a kunai in their hand. Kakashi showing his Sharingan. Who is this guy? Sasuke questioned, a large chakra being emitted from him. Zabuza was panting from fatigue, his sword pointed to the man. HMPH. It's that all you've got, Zabuza? Kisame chuckled, dashing at him. Zabuza's sword and Kisami's blade met again. Kurenai and Kakashi took this as an opportunity to strike. Kisame saw them move to his left and right flanks. The large man used his force and threw Zabuza back before kicking Kakashi in the ribs, sending him flying to the water below. Kurenai was given an elbow in her stomach, making her spit out blood. Naruto, Sasuke and Kiba jumped into action. Focus the chakra into my eyes, now. Sasuke had done it. He had activated the Sharingan. Kisame grew interested in the boy. Sharingan, but still too weak for my tastes, you're still an egg. Sasuke went on to fight with Kisame one-on-one, but Kisame, although big, was as fast as a rabbit. None of the blows or slashes by Sasuke's kunai, in his left hand, connected with him. Kiba moved into the offensive position. Suga. Kiba spun like a tornado to Kisame, who delivered a punch to his head, instantly knocking him out. Sasuke saw an opening in Kisami's defense and registered a kick to the man's shoulder, knocking him back. He grinned wider and thrusted Sasuke's stomach with his palm. Sasuke coughed out some blood, but with his lightning-quick reflexes did quick hand seals. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. A giant fireball came at Kisame. Kisame did some extremely quick hand seals as well. Sweden. Sujin Heki. A wall of water guarded the summoner of its aid. Kisame did more hand seals, the malicious grin still on his face. Sweden. Suryuden no Jutsu. A gigantic water-like serpent came out of the water. Raishin. Raidaraden no Jutsu. A familiar voice was heard as a figure of a tiger made of lightning dashed at the dragon, canceling the attack. What? Kisame exclaimed as he saw the caster of the ninjutsu. Naruto stood there, his left palm toward Kisame, frowning. You're different from these genin. Kisame stated, picking up his sword. Kisame. Zabuza was back, but Kisame landed a blow in his stomach. Sleep for a while, won't you, Zabuza? Kisame said softly to Zabuza. The unconscious form of Zabuza dropped to the ground along with his sword. Zabuza Nisan, Haku exclaimed, running to Zabuza's side but was stopped by Kiba and Sasuke. They were both exhausted, but knew of this person's strength. Don't stop me. Haku struggled to get free of their hold. This guy's too strong. Haku, you saw how he took them out. Kiba said. We need a plan. Sasuke whispered into Haku's ear, or we'll die fighting. Suddenly, a figure dashed past them, Naruto. Their eyes widened. Oh, you. Kisame blocked the lightning-fast kunai attacks with his sword. Naruto jumped back and threw a shuriken at Kisame. Shuriken. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The shuriken multiplied into 6. 2 of the shurikens cut Kisami's shoulders, though the cuts were slight. The other shurikens were blocked by Kisami's sword. He smirked at Naruto, who smirked back at him. Behind me, Kisame thought, feeling a presence and swinging around. His elbow met with Kurenai's stomach, she spat out blood. Before she flew back or dropped to the ground, Kisame held her by her head. Kurenai-sensei. Kiba exclaimed along with Shikamaru. Naruto's eyes widened. So this woman is your teacher, Kisame asked, maliciously punching her in the stomach as her students watched on in horror. What a pathetic group you all are. Naruto looked on as Kurenai was hit in the stomach again by Kisami's kneecap, sending her flying Naruto's way. Naruto caught her and checked on her status. Kurenai-sensei. Kiba came running with Shikamaru to their teacher. Sorry, Naruto, I guess I wasn't a good teacher. She closed her eyes. Naruto slowly set Kurenai down on the ground as Kiba and Shikamaru went to their teacher, worried as ever. Naruto just stood there, his eyes covered by his locks. It began to rain. Droplets of water were dropping from the sky. Naru-kun, Kurenai once said to him as he blushed in the ramen stand. Are you angry at me, kid? Come on, take your revenge, Kisame said, his malicious smile in place, showing all his teeth. Suddenly, Naruto did extremely fast hand seals and grabbed his right wrist. His hand grew a light blue due to the chakra that was gathered there. Kisami's smile widened. A chakra-enhanced punch was all he had to offer. Kisame charged at Naruto. If you're not going to make your move, then allow me to kill you. Kurenai had been brought to the others and was being checked on by Haku. Kiba looked on at the battle, whatever the outcome was. As Kisame brought down his blade, Naruto disappeared. There was no sign of him. Where did he go? Kisame said, looking around. Nothing but rain. Here. Naruto was suddenly standing on Kisami's sword, his eyes widened. The right hand of Naruto's was getting bluer by the second. Let me tell you one thing. Kisami's eyes were in fear from the piercing look in Naruto's eyes. If you ever hurt the ones I love, prepare for your sentence. The sound of 1,000 birds was heard in the air. Naruto thrust his right hand into Kisami's chest. The others looked on in shock. Single quote.